Hello again, Bob Scholz with Hunt ERA, and today's session we're going to be talking about open housing, but not just any open housing. We're going to be talking about professional open housing. Now some of you may say that's too much to do. Well, that's okay, but if you want to do a professional open house, this is what you need to do. Let's start by saying, why do we have an open house? Well, the first reason we should be having the open house is to sell that open house. I'm sure you'd agree with that. So one of the things we need to learn is how to sell that house while we're in that open house. And we'll be talking about that today. The next thing is to obtain buyer leads. People that are coming into the open house are naturally buyers. We are going to talk later about how to qualify those buyers, though. You don't want every buyer that comes through. And then thirdly, to obtain seller leads. Why obtain seller leads? Because about 60%, according to the National Association of Realtors, 60% of the visitors to an open house also have a home to sell. And then finally, the one reason you shouldn't hold an open house is to please the seller. If you have nothing else to offer the seller in marketing, some people will hold the open house. Wrong reason to hold an open house. I'm sure that you'd agree with that too. So what are some key factors in a professional open house? The first thing is the preparation, what you need to do to prepare that property to be open. The second is prospecting. The third is the presentation itself, what you do in the open house. The fourth is the post-event activities. These are the activities you're going to do after the open house. And then finally, on-purpose, persistent follow-up with the people that have been through your open house. So preparation. Let's talk about preparation. First, you need to choose the right home. Choosing the right home means that you're not choosing homes that will not sell. It just doesn't make sense. So you want to choose the right home. Second, you want to choose the right location. In other words, you want a home that's in a location that, number one, is easy to get to, that people can get to it without 300 signs out there to direct them to that open house. So you want to make sure you pick a good location, not something up on the hills in Boston or something like that. You want a property that's easy to get to. Third, what you want to do is make sure you have occupancy. Now what that means is not that the seller is occupying the property, but merely that the seller is willing to give occupancy to the buyers that come through that open house. If they need time to find a house, if they need to do this or that, not the right open house to hold, or not the right house to hold open. Okay? They have to be willing to allow the buyers that are in the open house that are qualified and hot buyers to be able to move into that house in 60 days. Next is the condition of the property. One of the things that I've found is that when buyers go through a property, they kind of are also, and especially if they're sellers, they're kind of reviewing what that person is doing in the open house. If you expect to get listing leads from this, you need to get properties that are in good condition. And sometimes you can actually get a seller to get the property in the proper condition by saying, we'll have an open house if you do this then. Condition, although it's in the control of the seller, when a buyer goes through and they might be interviewing you, if you would, for listing their property, if the condition's not good, who do you think they think didn't have the guts to tell the seller what they had to do to make it or to put it into great condition? And lastly is price. Same thing with price. If proposed sellers are coming through that property, what you want to do is you want to make sure it's a properly priced home. These buyers are out shopping homes in the marketplace. They're hot buyers out there shopping. They know comparatively what the price of the home should be. If you're way out of line, they think you set the price on the home and are probably not going to list their property with you. I hope all that makes sense to you. So first, second, prospecting. You have to prospect on a purpose for an open house. You can't just throw a sign up in the morning, throw an ad in the paper. Let's do some prospecting for it. First, let's invite the neighborhood. Why do we want to invite the neighborhood? Well, quite frankly, the neighbors know other people that might want to move into their neighborhood and sometimes feel reluctant to go into an open house in their neighborhood. So you want to invite them, either knocking on the doors, sending them a note or an invite. And if you've got names in electronically, you can send it electronically, but probably not the neighborhood. Next thing you want to do is you want to let your past clients know that you're having an open house. Now you might ask why you would do that. Well, if your past clients see that you're busy, that you're active, and that you're successful, it helps in taking your book of business and nurturing that further down the road. Third thing that you want to do is you want to take your past open house visitors and you want to let them know that you have an open house. So this means you're going to try and collect the emails, if you could, from your past visitors to other open houses. Now, every open house won't be right for them, But if you just send them a little note electronically, it doesn't cost you any money, just saying, I'm going to be at this open house and this. If you're in the neighborhood, stop and see me. And maybe if you don't, it's not right for you, it'll be right for somebody you know. So you want to let your past open house visitors, and we do that through our Agent Achieve program, so make sure you're developing your database on Agent Achieve. Fourth thing is to advertise it. In our company, it's very easy to advertise your open house. All you need to do is turn it into your administrative assistant. I think it's by noon on Monday, but check with your branch. On noon on Monday, and they will take care of disseminating that out into the marketplace through print advertising and also electronic advertising on the internet. Next, online announcements. We do that through the Hunt hotline and voicepad. You'll be able to announce that the house is open, even to people that are sitting in the street getting information about it through the Hunt hotline. And then finally, we're cross-selling with ProShow. What you have to do with ProShow is go into ProShow. By the way, nobody else can offer this to the seller, so use this in your listing presentation. Cross-selling with ProShow means that you go into ProShow when you're going to have an open house, and you call up those people, those agents that are showing properties through the ProShow system, both our agents and the competition's agents, so that you can call those people and try to get them interested in the home that you're holding open in the areas where they're actually showing homes. Presentation part. Have the right materials. Make sure that you have the right materials. Nobody can tell you what the right materials are. You'll learn that from trial and error. But make sure you have the materials. You're not scraping around for them on a Sunday morning or whatever. You want to plan the materials you're going to have. A little trial and error will tell you what kind of materials work. Suggestions, an agency brochure, seller select brochures. These are the kind of things you want at the open house. Next, what you want to do is you want to have a plan to obtain emails. You can run contests. You can figure out a way creatively to capture emails, and I'll explain to you why that's important in a second. Have colored highlight sheets. What you want to have is colored highlight sheets, and I stress colored. Why? Because you want to differentiate yourself in that home while you're there holding the open house. Perchance that somebody has a house to sell, they're watching what you're doing. Okay? Colored highlight sheets, professionally done, will differentiate you from the black and white copies people use out of the MLS. Next, what you want to do is have a sign-in sheet. It can be an electronic like Open House Pro, or it's simply the static sheets in your house where you're going to collect names and numbers and then determine which ones of those are hot buyers, and then follow up with the cold buyers through some type of drip campaign or whatever through Agent Achieve. Another system that nobody else can have to follow up with these open house visitors. Finally, have a planned greet and meet. A greet and release. Have a planned greet and release. I've got a great surprise for you today. I'm happy to say that with me here today is a longtime friend of Hunt ERA, a partner with Hunt ERA in training, and the wonderful trainer of the real estate revolution, Dan Elser. Dan, welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Hey, everybody. Dan Elser here. I want to first thank Bob for allowing me to join him in your training video today. Open houses is one of my favorite things, and if you pay attention to everything Bob told you leading up and use those proprietary tools that Hunt has, and by the way, training other companies and going all over the nation, you guys have things that others don't have. So make sure you use them, because other people would just die to have some of these things to drive people to these open houses and make sure that you have successful open houses. So use your ProShow. Use the products and services that Hunt has provided you to make sure that you have successful open houses. Now, like I said, this is one of my favorite things. He talked about the purpose of doing it was to get it sold. So we'll start with what he said. What is a greet and release program? Well, when someone walks into an open house, since we don't know them and we haven't worked with them before, they will have some fears. So I want to make sure you meet everybody in the entry of the home. Greet them, simply your name, offer assistance, get their name, and then I want you to release them. So kind of be like, hi, Bob. Welcome to my open house. I'm Dan.
Yeah.
And as soon as I'm done with that exchange, I'm going to say, if you have any questions, just scream out my name. I got a couple things to get done, and I'm going to walk away. Now, I do that because as I walk away from him, his expectation was a salesperson is greeting him in the front door. Oh, no, he's going to grab me and walk me through the house. No, we're going to greet and release. Now, when you release somebody after greeting them, they're left to themselves, so they will gravitate to a place in the house that interests them. Instead of you taking them somewhere that they might not be interested, they're going to go where they want to go. Now, the next step in doing that is I want you to approach them with a trial close. Remember, trial close questions just ask opinions. Might say, walk up, they're looking at the kitchen. Hey folks, just wanted to check, what do you think of the kitchen? Asking their opinion. Have some small talk with them. And then I need you to be able to have 3 qualifying questions, which are totally different than all the qualification stuff you go through before. 3 good qualifying questions for somebody in an open house. So let me take you through those 3 questions. The first one, after having that small talk and using that trial close, I'll ask, so how long have you folks been looking? Now think about answers you might get. Some people will say to you, oh, we do this every weekend. Well, if you hear that kind of a response, those are lookers. Go ahead and answer their questions, move away from them, but understand that if this is something they do every weekend, like Bob said, gather their information for a drip campaign, but they shouldn't be your focus in the house if other people come through the door. But let's say they tell you, oh, we just started looking. That's an indicator that this could be a hot prospect. Now again, I want to release, because if I hover over them, they will make up things, they will position themselves to escape. I want to leave them alone, so I leave. Now they'll gravitate to a second place in the house if they have an interest, and then the second question when I approach, after some small talk, will be, hey, so when do you folks need to get in your new home? Now I'm asking for time frame. Some people will say, oh, it doesn't matter, we're just out looking. Others might say, well, our house just went under contract, we need to be in something soon, or our rental agreement's going to be up. The best answer you get is an answer in that case. If they have a purpose and a reason to take action, that's someone I want to stick with. If they give me an answer that makes me feel they're just kicking tires, again, I'll leave them in the house, but I'm not going to be actively pursuing them. And then the third, if they go to a third place of interest, which is telling us that they're very interested in the home, I have a third question, and it's real simple. Hey, do you have a home to sell before you buy your next home? Now this helps you in 2 ways. If they say yes, listing opportunity. They say no, buying opportunity. So let's just look. If somebody gives me, just started looking, I've got 60 days to find something, and my house is already sold, what should we do then? Think about it. They went to 3 different places in the house. They're obviously interested. Now, if they got good news for you, if they've given you the right answers, I want you simply to ask them to buy the house. Hey, I think this home fits your needs. Would you like to make an offer? Remember, the worst thing they'll say is no. And if they say no, ask them why. Because these are good buyers. Get some more input where then you can look at other homes for them. But if they say yes, do what you've been trained. Sell them the house.
Thanks, Dan. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, buddy.
Okay.
Hope you guys enjoy it. Thank you, folks.
The next thing I want to talk about is to close on exit. As Dan said, if you get those right answers, what you want to do is ask some more questions and close them and try to sell them the house. Ask what have they thought of the home. Ask if they have a home to sell, as Dan said. You want to certainly ask when they wanted to move or when they need to move. Better, okay, so that you can get that. Ask them how they've been looking for a home. Sometimes when they tell you they've been doing this or doing that, and they're not ready to buy that home, but you can show them an easier and better way through the By Design program to purchase a home, then you can have them as a buyer as long as those questions that Dan told you are positively answered. Finally, ask who they are working with. Now, if you've been to my other trainings, you know that if they're out looking for open houses, I don't think their professional agent is doing their job. They're just sending them to open houses. Call me if you find something. So I have no problem in trying to, if they're not under an exclusive agreement, and you know, NAR tells us that we have to have an affirmative obligation to determine if they're in a written, signed contract with that other person. So if they say, I'm working with Lou Jones, say, Lou Jones he's with, and if he says, Hunt, you're going to back off. If they say, Realty USA or something like that, then what I'm going to do is say, I'm just at a loss for words here. And the reason being is when I'm working with a buyer, I help them to purchase the home. I don't just send them out to look at open houses. And try to close that buyer if you can. Ask what they would do if they found a house today. I think that's a very important question. If they found the house today, what would you do? This will tell you if they've been to a bank, give you lots of opportunities to open the conversation. Finally, post-event. So now you've had the open house, you've done a good job. You know, you've done the presentation the way it should be in there. And now what you want to do is you want to go, what do you do after the open house? First thing that you want to do is you want to send the seller a thank you. I usually tell people to leave a little handwritten note, not something on Hunt stationery, just a handwritten thank you note. Dollar store, you can get 100 of them. Go and get a thank you note, write thank you for allowing me the opportunity to hold your home open. If you're doing refreshments, I know we didn't talk about that today, but if you do refreshments, leave the refreshments and say, I left the refreshments that I used during your open house for you and the family. Something to that effect, but make sure you thank the seller. In that thank you, be sure that you let them know how many people were through the property. Or if no people were through the property, this is a time management thing for you because they're going to call you Sunday night, and if you tell them how many people are going to be through, we had 3 couples through, a couple of interested, I'll be getting back to them tomorrow night, and that way they're not calling you and hounding you to get information on what happened at that open house. Next, a visitor thank you. This can be done electronically, but again, I think a personalized handwritten note, if you have their address, goes a long way when you're thanking the visitors that came through your open house. Third thing is database those visitors. Put them in Agent Achieve. No other company has a system that can follow up with these open house visitors. Keep them in the loop until they become hot buyers, until those questions are answered favorably. Next, call visitors for feedback. I think it's very important, both for the seller and for you, that you call these visitors and get feedback from the visitors. Even if they're not hot buyers, I would suggest that you call them just to see if there's something you or the seller or other agents have missed in setting and staging that open house. Finally, I want you to be persistent on purpose. Not because you have nothing better to do. I want you to schedule the time when you're going to follow up and you're going to start an automated marketing system with them. You're going to contact them on a regular basis. I send them new listings. You're going to send them open house notifications. You're going to send notifications if there's changing, especially in the listing that you held open that they attended. And in Agent Achieve, you can actually dissect your database to tell you that. And finally, call all those hot leads. The hot leads that you have, first of all, I think you should sell them a house as soon as you possibly can. But at a minimum, you should be talking to them once a week. That just makes sense to me. So, in summary, prepare your open house, prospect your open house, make sure your presentation is professional, make sure you do the post-event activities, not by happenstance, but plan it. And finally, be persistent in your desire to try and follow up with the people that you've generated. This is Bob Scholz, and I want to thank Dan Eltzer and the studios here, and offer you any help you need. Please call us at Career Development, 818-2569. Thanks for listening.